By the end of this video, you will know how to size TP-Class CTs so they stay accurate under asymmetrical fault conditions. We know that when the fault current is asymmetrical, even at a lower magnitude, the CT can still go into deep saturation because of the DC offset in the short-circuit current. If you would like to understand the physics behind this, check out our video on asymmetrical CT saturation. So the real question is, how do we ensure the CT doesn't saturate under these conditions? To answer that, we'll look at two main methods, the IEEE method and the IEC method. Let's begin with the IEEE method. According to IEEE C37.110, a simple overdimensioning factor ensures that the CT reproduces asymmetrical fault currents accurately, and that factor is 1 plus X by R. Let's see what this means in practice. Imagine a system with a primary time constant of 100 milliseconds. That means the system X by R ratio is about 31. Here, when the fault is symmetrical, the CT reproduces the current perfectly. But when the fault has 100% DC offset, the CT saturates quickly. According to the IEEE recommendation, the CT must be oversized by a factor of 32. When we apply this overdimensioning factor, the oversized CT no longer saturates, it reproduces the current accurately. It looks simple, but in reality, designing a CT that large is not always possible. This is especially true in compact setups like gas-insulated substations, where installation space is limited. Fortunately, modern digital relays help us address this issue. We know that digital relays operate very fast, often within one cycle. That means the CT only needs to give a saturation-free output for a short duration, typically less than 10 milliseconds. So instead of designing the CT for the entire fault duration, we optimize it for the required operating window. IEEE provides a time-to-saturation formula that helps calculate the optimum overdimensioning factor for that time frame. The IEEE method is simple to apply, but it has two drawbacks. First, it works only for a single-energization duty cycle, so it doesn't apply to auto-reclosing, where the CT sees double-energization. Second, for transient-performance CTs, we need to follow the IEC standard instead. So let's move to the IEC method. IEC 61869 gives a clear framework for transient-performance CTs, covering both single and double-energization duty cycles. And it defines two key parameters. Number 1, the rated symmetrical short-circuit current factor, Kssc. And number 2, the transient dimensioning factor, Ktd. Kssc is the ratio of the RMS value of the primary symmetrical short-circuit current to the rated primary current. It's quite similar to the accuracy limit factor, or ALF, used in 5P 20 CTs, or the dimensioning factor used in PX or PS class CTs. Now comes the key parameter, the transient dimensioning factor, Ktd. Ktd determines how much the CT must be oversized to stay accurate during asymmetrical fault conditions. In simple terms, Kssc represents the AC flux component. Ktd accounts for the transient DC flux. Together, they define the total flux the CT core must handle. In fact, the core is designed based on the product of Ktd and Kssc. However, calculating Ktd is quite complex. The IEC standard actually provides a detailed VBA script to calculate Ktd precisely. We have used that exact VBA script to develop a Ktd Sizing Tool, which automates this entire process. Here's how it works. In the tool we have developed, you simply enter the required input in column B. Then click the button labeled single-energization or double-energization. To keep this video short, I have added a link in the description that explains each input parameter in detail. We will also cover this in the next part of this series. Let's begin with calculating Ktd for a single-energization duty cycle. If we want the CT to remain saturation-free for the entire fault duration, the required Ktd might be around 25. But if we only need the CT to stay saturation-free for 20 milliseconds, the required Ktd drops significantly, perhaps to 6 or even less. This helps us design a practical CT that still meets the relay's operating requirements. Now let's consider a double-energization duty cycle. Here also, we may have two cases. Case 1, the CT must remain saturation-free for the entire fault duration. In this case, the CT needs to stay linear until the breaker completely clears the fault. Naturally, this requires a higher Ktd and a bigger CT core. When we run this case in the Ktd tool, the required Ktd comes out to around 40. This tells us that the CT must be significantly oversized to handle the full transient flux. Case 2, the CT needs only 10 milliseconds of linear operation per energization. Here's the key timing difference we must keep in mind. During the first energization, once the relay detects the fault and issues a trip command, the breaker still takes some time to open. During this delay, current continues to flow, and the CT flux keeps increasing. That's why the breaker opening time must be added to the minimum time to saturation in the first energization. But during the second energization, once the relay issues the trip, the rise in CT flux no longer affects relay operation, because the relay has already acted. So, the breaker opening time is not included in the second energization. When we run this second case in the tool, the required Ktd drops sharply, from 40 down to around 21. This small timing difference has a big impact on CT design. And our Ktd Sizing Tool automatically accounts for both energizations, giving you the optimum Ktd without oversizing the CT core. So, to summarize, the IEEE method is simple, but has its limitations. The IEC method provides a complete framework for both single and double energization duty cycles. In the next video, we will cover how to accurately specify TP-Class CTs. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out our earlier video on asymmetrical CT saturation, if you have not already.